Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Acupuncture Storytime podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Rose, and thank you so much for joining for another acupuncture story. This story has to do with distal acupuncture. What does distal acupuncture mean? It means the acupuncturist puts a needle in somewhere that is away from the area of pain, and somehow that makes it better. And that is my favorite way to practice acupuncture for pain relief. Somebody comes in, they say, my knee hurts, and they're expecting you to put needles in their knee. And you say, no, I'm going to put needles in your foot and your wrist and your shoulder. And they say, but my knee hurts. And you say, just trust me, and you do it. And all of a sudden, their knee feels better. You palpate it before it hurts. You palpate it after. It doesn't hurt. They say, how do you do that? Well, that's acupuncture. It's pretty consistent that patients are surprised when I don't put needles in the area that hurts. But if acupuncture was just sticking needles where it hurts, couldn't anyone do it? Why would we need 4 years of schooling in a master's program to learn that? That would be pretty simple. When you learn the depths of the channel system and how the nervous system, different parts of the body are connected, you can do amazing things, and I do find that in most cases, distal acupuncture works better than local acupuncture. So it's just how I practice. Anyway, so today's story is about distal acupuncture. Before I do, if you've been listening, you know I have to speak a little bit about tampertea.com, the best place to order the highest quality loose teas in the world. Some of my favorite teas from tampertea.com. Zhang Oolong tea. It is so light. It is so tasty. I could drink that oolong tea all day. Then they have this black tea. What's it called? It's called Sun Moon Lake Ruby Red Tea. Kind of a mouthful of a name. It used to be called Ruby Number 18, but they changed the name. I like the old name, so I'm going to call it Ruby 18. Ruby 18 is a black tea like you would get a normal like English breakfast tea. It's just so much better. It is a mix of Taiwanese wild-grown tea tree with the Burmese big leaf tea tree that created its own unique strain of the tea tree that has to be tasted to believe. You can have it with milk and honey. You could have it straight and plain. It's just darn good black tea. Another one of my favorite teas is the Tiguanyin. I hope that's what it's called on their website so that people can find it. It's called Tiguanyin. It's this very rich green tea. Oh, yeah, I'm looking at the website now. It says charcoal fire roasted Tiguanyin. Delicious. And the best thing about these teas, too, they're all pretty inexpensive. I think all three that I mentioned are $13 for a packet. That's so reasonable for something so yummy. So forgive me for talking so long about tea. It's a passion of mine. It's such a fun hobby to have. Let's get to this story, though. Oh, and you can use the promo code STORYTIME10 for 10% off your first order. Moving back to the story. So when I was an acupuncture student, you learn kind of the basic standard idea. Do some local points in the area where it hurts, some adjacent point kind of around where it hurts, and some distal points, from the textbook that's supposed to help the area where it hurts. And I did that in the clinic until one fateful day. I was working in the Harborview Medical Clinic in Seattle doing clinical rounds under a supervisor, Dr. Jim Dowling. And Dr. Dowling was a unique guy. He had a very different way of approaching and treating patients. And his main way that he did is definitely worth talking about. Maybe we'll get to it, but I want to tell this story first. A Spanish-speaking immigrant woman came in. She didn't speak any English. And fortunately, Harborview had translators, so a translator came in. She said she had frozen shoulder and she couldn't lift her shoulder above a certain area. She demonstrated how high she could lift it. And she had 3 kids with her, with maybe a 3-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 7-year-old. And we were addressing her shoulder, coming up with a treatment plan. And Dr. Dowling just said, hey, I want you to try this point. The pain is on her left shoulder. Use her right leg, and I want you to use a point that's 1.5 hand breaths under a point spleen 9. It's kind of on the inside of the leg, on the board of the bone. And he said, needle at the 45-degree angle upwards. And just said, okay. I needled it. And then he told the translator, tell her to lift her arm. And all of a sudden, the woman lifted her arm way over her head with a full range of motion, and she screamed, and then her kid screamed because her arm was moving again with this one needle. And I just said, Dr. Dowling, what just happened? What is that? And he said, oh, this is a point from Master Dung acupuncture. It's a distal point. And I said, what is Master Dung acupuncture? Turns out that there is a long and rich history of acupuncture, and there were so many different styles that and family systems that were passed down from father to son and father to son over centuries and centuries in China. Now, in the, I think, 1950s or 60s, the Chinese Communist government standardized acupuncture. It brought together a group of communist-approved experts, and they made a textbook system. That's really what's mainly taught in the school. But there's a lot that's lost if you just follow that textbook system, which is now known as TCM, Traditional Chinese Medicine. One of these styles that's lost is the Dung family system. This is a family of acupuncturists that stretches back many, many generations. And the last practitioner of this acupuncture lineage, and they have their own set of points. It's completely different than all of the standard points. He escaped from the communist takeover, moved to Taiwan, and opened up his practice there. And he opened his family style to students that were not part of the family, which had never been done before. And Dr. Dowling had learned this, and this point, ShenGuan, is indicated for many things. One of them is shoulder pain. And when you put this in this woman, it became, her shoulder just moved. And I've done this again, using these distal points like this for frozen shoulder many times. And I've had this reaction in a number of patients where they literally, with one needle placed in their leg or with a couple of needles placed, they can start to move their shoulders in ways that they couldn't. So I asked Dr. Dowling all about treatment of frozen shoulder. And this is the prescription that he gave, and I have used a lot of this, which is on the opposite side of the frozen shoulder. Use this point, ShenGuan, which is half a hand breath, it's Sun in Chinese, under spleen 9 on the border of the bone at a 45-degree angle upwards. And then find tender points around kidney 3, around gallbladder 40, around stomach, what's the number? I know the point, but forget all the numbers sometimes. Once you get to know the points well, the numbering system doesn't matter that much. Stomach 41, that's it, and liver 4. And you find tender points around that and just put some needles in wherever they're tender. Why is that? Because the pain in the shoulder is generally on the large intestines and the SanChao triple wormer channels. And those channels are the hand yang ming channel and the hand Xiao Yang channel. So this can be treated with the foot Yang Ming channel, stomach channel, or the foot Xiao Yang channel, the kidney or the gallbladder channel. But they can also be treated with the opposite version. The opposite of Xiao Yang is Xiao Yin. So you could treat with the kidney channel, the Xiao Yin channel, and the opposite of Yang Ming is Zhui Yin. So you can treat with the foot Zhui Yin channel, the liver channel. And the ankle is analogous to the shoulder in a mirror image system. So if you find the tender points around there, then you can treat shoulder dysfunction with those points. Another point that he uses on the opposite side would be lung 5. And then on the same side, you can use large intestine 4 and triple wormer 3 or 4 as guiding points to make the effect of these distal points go into the channel. I've used this formula time and time again for shoulder pain and found it remarkably effective. So after that, I was a third-year student at this point. I got really into Master Dung acupuncture and distal acupuncture. I ordered a bunch of books, and I started bringing them everywhere I go when I was treating patients in the student clinic. and treating everyone with his theory. And I requested to work with Dr. Dowling as much as I could because he would let me do as much Master Dong as I wanted, and some other professors wouldn't. The more I learned the system and went into the depth of it, the greater my understanding of how acupuncture and acupuncture logic and thinking works. And so that was really helpful for me. Now, not all conditions can be solved with distal. There's definitely a percentage of patients where I treat them with distal acupuncture. It doesn't do much, and I treat with local, and hey, it works much better with trigger point. But I feel like 70 or 80% of patients respond better to distal acupuncture. So if you are an acupuncture student, you might want to consider getting a couple books on Master Dong acupuncture, trying out some of these distal prescriptions, because you can get some really compelling results with it, and it forces you to think outside of the box of stick needles where it hurts and get into the nuts, bolts, and details of how the acupuncture system works. And the deeper you go, the more you realize the brilliance of the thinking that went into in the refinement of thousands of years of practice of acupuncture. So I hope that you enjoyed this acupuncture story and chat, and looking forward to sharing another one with you next week. Have a great day.